Greetings, everyone. So I want to jump right into this video and talk about college degrees and the value of college degrees. You have a lot of idiots out here posting videos about how college isn't important anymore and why you shouldn't go to school. And some of these videos are very convincing. They're elaborate. They have graphics in it. You can tell these guys invest some money in these videos, but I don't think these videos are being very specific. They talk around the issues, but they don't get into the details of why some people are going to college and finding themselves out here still on the unemployment line. The fact is, a lot of people are going to college for these degrees that don't mean shit. For instance, if you're going to college and you get a master's degree in fine arts, there aren't any big Fortune 500 companies that need you. They're going to hire you for the mailroom or clerk job, anything like that. They don't need you to be in the boardroom and making decisions with a master's degree in fine arts. And we're just not being real about it. So I want to get into some stats of the value of a college degree. But first, let me tell you why I went to college and the big difference it made in my life. My best friend had gotten his bachelor's degree a long time before I did. And he kept convincing me to go back to school. Now I would get some good jobs, but then the biggest problem would be when I was in between jobs. I remember I lost my job back in 2008, and I had already had my associates by this point. But so I was looking around for a job, and I remember going to this firm in Manhattan, and I had taken some tests, some word processing tests, some speed tests, typing speed tests. And I remember the guy coming out telling me how they didn't need me, basically. If we have a mailroom or security job, then I'll give you a call. To me, that was such a slap in the face. I felt so offended, but I felt appalled. I felt like a piece of shit when I walked out of there. And I promised myself I would never get treated like that again. So I went back and got my bachelor's degree. Not only did I get my bachelor's degree, that's when I really got serious about pursuing entrepreneurship. And that's when I went and got my teaching certification. Then after that, I started writing syllabuses and sending them out to colleges. And then I started getting calls to teach for continued education at colleges. So, I just wanted to make sure that any job I went to, no one would ever insult me by offering me a mailroom job. Now, I'm not insulting anyone out there that has one. You know, it's better to have a job than to not have one. But I remember during that time when I went to do some tutoring for high school kids, I remember being in the interview room, and I was sitting next to this young, she was a pretty white girl, and we were talking, and she was telling me how she's so angry. And I said, why are you so angry? She said, because I have my master's degree and I can't find a job, and here I am having to tutor just to make a living. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, what's your master's degree in? She said, fine arts. And of course, that's what I wanted to say. Oh, really now? I wanted to change my accent on her and just, really make a novelty out of the conversation. But because my thing is, what did you think was going to happen? And you find a lot of people do this. I think some people go to school and get bullshit degrees just to give themselves a pat on the back or to fool other people. And if you go to bars and stuff, like, living in New York, very superficial town. You can be in bars and talk to people, and you may talk to a beautiful woman or whatever. You hear these chicks talk and they'll say, yeah, I have a master's. Like, that's the first thing they want to put out there to let you know that, hey, I'm out of your ballpark. I'm saying this is just on observation. I find, and even when I read some of these women's blogs, I see stuff like that, and it's like, oh. So I want to interject and say, well, what's your degree in? What's your master's degree in? And right there, I know that would shut everything down, because a lot of times these women aren't going to school for any serious degrees. They're going to school for feminism, gender studies, fine arts, liberal arts. Nothing's, and not just women. A lot of minorities are doing it too. They're not going to school for shit that people need. They're not going for hard sciences. They're going for bullshit degrees that they can get very easy and try to cheat on life, and then wonder why they get out and they're in all this debt. I've known people going to school for filmmaking. Who the fuck needs a degree in filmmaking to make it in Hollywood? The rules of Hollywood have changed so much. We now live in the technology era. You don't need a degree. You can come, as long as you know how to market yourself. You don't even need all this. Nowadays, the iPhone and Samsung Galaxy The cameras on those phones are so damn good. You can shoot a movie that can convince people. As long as you got a good story, you know, a good editor, and you have good sound. You know how to do audio, because it's a big part. You don't need a degree in filmmaking. You really don't. But people are still cheating themselves, trying to bullshit life and get these fake degrees and wonder why they're unemployed. We also live in a very liberal, and you hear me say that a lot, liberal country that advises people to chase your dreams, but it doesn't tell you to chase reality or chase your dreams in reality. And the problem is you got people just now rebelling, thinking, hey, you know what? I don't want to sweat in school. I don't want to bust my ass and study engineering or study electronics or study medicine or study ethanol or reusable energy. They don't want to study stuff like that. It's too hard. And so they say, you know what, I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to be another fashion designer. And wonder why now you've been chasing this shit for 10 years and you got nowhere. Now you look back, now you're angry at the college system. Now you want to say it's a scam and because you owe all of this money. And now you're looking for some sugar daddy to step in and pay your bills, or you're looking for some sugar mama to step in and help you pay your bills. Because, you know, now you have a lot of guys that are on that whole thing, too, where they're trying to find females to take care of them. Right. So the joke's on you when you think you can cheat education. So now let's get into degrees. We're going to talk about the whole gender and the wage gap difference in education, so we can understand why men are making more than women when it comes to those with college degrees. Right. And this is going to tie into what I'm talking about when the types of degrees you take is going to measure how well you're paid when you get out of college. So now we're going to talk about associate degrees. Now, when it comes to associate degrees, 60% of white women versus 40% white men. When it comes to blacks, 66% black women, 34% black men. Hispanic, 62% Hispanic women, 38% Hispanic men. Asian and Pacific Islander, 57% female, 43% male. Alaskan or American Indian, 64% female, 36% male. Two or more races, biracial, 60% female, 40% male. Now when it comes to bachelor's degrees, 56% white female, 44% male, white male. And this comes to white people. Black, 64% black female, 36% black male. Big difference. Hispanic, 60% Hispanic female, 40% Hispanic male. Pacific Islander or Asians, 55% female, 45% male. American Indian again and Alaskan, 61% female, 39% male. Biracial people 60% female, 40% male. So with that, is you can see right there that there are more women going to college than men, or going to college and finishing than men when it comes to associates and bachelor's degree. And we see this play out even on the social field. You find that a lot of women, and justifiably so, are setting their financial standards higher because I guess they felt like, look, I went to school, I bust my ass, I got my degree. I'm not taking care of no man, right? So we see this playing out socially. But now when we get into the pay now, right? And all of that ties into what you're going to pay back, because it doesn't matter what you go to college for. The money is still the same. So if you're going to college and you're finishing in something like liberal arts, you're still going to pay back the same amount of money as if you went for business or accounting. If you go to the same, let's say the same schools or whatever, the payback is still the same, depending on how long you have to be in school is where the difference is, and which degree you're pursuing. As far as, medical and law take a little bit longer. So now we're going to get into the distribution when it comes to just bachelors, when it comes to engineering degrees, right? When it comes to engineering degrees versus social sciences and psychology. Right. So now all of these statistics that I'm giving you, they're coming from the National Center for Education Statistics. So this is a reliable source I'm giving you this information from. So now when it comes to engineering degrees, right? Engineering degrees, 81% male, 19% female. That's a big difference, a big jump, right? you see the huge difference that men are going for these hard sciences, and it's no wonder they're making more money when it comes to sciences, hard sciences. Now, when it comes to computer science, 81% male, 19% female. Earth, atmosphere, and ocean sciences, 62% male, 38% female. Physical sciences, 58% male, 42% female. Mathematics, 58% male, 42% female. You see this huge, you see a pattern here when it comes to hard sciences, mathematics, engineering, that men tend to pursue those kind of degrees that have a bigger payout. Now, when we get to social sciences and psychology, men 37%, female 63%. So this is where you see females majoring in things like teaching, like anything with social sciences, sociology, psychology. You can see those are things that women tend to go to school for. And it makes sense. It's no disrespect or an insult to them. I think women are better at human sciences and just understanding communication than men are. They say women can learn a new language faster than men can. So it makes sense. And I think people in general feel more comfortable opening up to a female about their problems than they do a man. And women are just less threatening on the surface. So I think it's natural for women to succeed in those fields and pursue those more. Not to mention, I think there's some stigma that might be attached to that. I think that some men may just not feel very masculine if they're going to school for nursing or sociology and psychology. I just think maybe just some men may not be interested in that. But we can see how this all impacts the job market. Very much so it impacts it. So now we're going to combine both genders, right? We're going to talk about employment, right? Employment. Now, for those people out there who tell you a college degree doesn't matter, smack them in the face with this. Now, once again, this is coming from the NCES, National Center for Education Statistics. Now, when it comes to the job market, when it comes to both genders combined, the job market less than high school completion, 56% of the job market is made up of people with less than high school dropouts. Now, high school completion, 72% likelihood of getting a job with a high school if you completed high school. So that even for those who drop out of high school, right there, you're making a big mistake. Your chances of getting a job is like a 57% chance, as opposed to you finishing high school, you have a 72% chance. Now, some people with some college, but no bachelor's degree, so they may have an associate's or just some college credits, they have an 80% chance of getting a job. 80%. Now, people with a bachelor's degree, which is myself, we have an 86% chance of getting a job. 86%. So for those of you who say college is no good and you dropped out, we compete. You have a 57% chance of getting a job. I have an 86% chance. I have a 30% chance of getting a job before you, right? And for those of you that just get a high school diploma and say you don't need a college degree, you're at 72%. I have an 86% chance. I have almost a 15% chance of getting a job before you. Now, when it comes to male and female, males that less than high school completion, a 70% chance of getting a job, males. And why is that, right? Why does it seem like males have a better chance of getting a job faster than a female can with less than a high school education? I think, and this is just, I theorize, I think that reason may be because there are just more jobs out there that just depend on heavy lifting. Basic jobs, like you could go on Craigslist and see moving jobs on there. People post all the time, painting jobs, flooring jobs, like real just basic handyman jobs. I think you have more men that are willing to do that and just get dirty, porter jobs, cleaning toilets. I think you just have more men that are willing to do those kind of jobs, right? That don't have an education. 80% for people that complete high school, right? Males, right? Now, For people with some college, 85% chance. People with a bachelor's degree, a 90% chance. So men, this is men now, just strictly men. Myself, me as a male, going against another male that just has a high school diploma. I have a 90% chance of getting a job. You have an 80% chance. Now, it doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but when it comes down to the pay now, that's where the difference is made up. So now we get into females now. Female education and chances of finding a job. So if you're a female that drops out of high school, you have a 42% chance of finding a job. It's really more dire for females than it is for males that don't have the education. So if you're a female listening to this, it's very important that you take note of this. A female with less than a high school completion has a 42% chance of finding a job. That's less than half a chance of finding a job, which that explains all these women swinging on poles and going into porn. This explains it, because they dropped out of high school. There's no one wants to. They have no skills that they can bring. And they have nothing. They just no one's gonna hire them to unload a truck, right? No one's gonna look at them, even if they're willing to do it. No, employers just don't want to take that chance of you getting hurt and then wanting to sue somebody. I think there's also the fear of, I think that's the biggest fear, is that you may get hurt on the job, or just unwilling to do it. Or that a lot of those jobs are surrounded by a lot of men with maybe low education that may speak a certain way. You know, they may curse a lot. They may be the real, you know, like your typical type of guy, meathead type of guy. And I don't think that maybe they don't feel females will be comfortable. A lot of females probably won't be comfortable working in that kind of environment. So females with a high school completion have a 61% chance of finding a job. That's better than having no degree. That's a 20% difference. So you see how important having a high school degree is. Now, for females with some college, so that means an associate's degree or less, right, with some credits, somewhere in between having a high school diploma and an associate's, have a 75% chance of finding a job. So that's still much better than having no high school education. So now females with a bachelor's degree or higher have an 83% chance of finding a job. So how is that a males with bachelor's degree have a 90% chance of finding a job, and females with a bachelor's degree have an 83% chance of finding a job? That's like a 7% difference. And once again, it comes back to what I talked about with the type of degrees that these females are going for. They're not going for these degrees in hard sciences. We don't need another psychologist. We don't need another teacher. Like there's a gazillion teachers out there. So, and this is no disrespect, right? There's a lot of social workers. If you go on Craigslist right now, it's flooded with social worker jobs and anything in the social worker field. But when you look at the pay for those things, the pay is not that much. The pay may be something with maybe like $40,000 or less. So they don't even pay much. And once again, it's too many people with that kind of, because those degrees are easier to get, the barriers of entry are very low. When I say barriers of entry being low, meaning anyone could do it. It's like starting a YouTube page. Why 1 out of a million people may be a YouTube star, because the barriers of entry are so low. Anyone could just take a cell phone and shoot themselves and upload a video. Now you're in the market. So when the barriers are low, that means the competition is much, much higher, because anyone can do it. And that's when it comes down to these degrees. When you go for these easy degrees, anyone can complete those degrees. So that means you're competing against maybe 300 other people, like 200 to 300 other people for that same position, where men are going for these science degrees. Now, if you go to college for bioengineering or something like that, right? Or computer science or ocean sciences, the barriers of entry are very high, because it's hard to get. It's hard to find the funding to finish that school. And even when you do find the funding to pass all of those exams, it's challenging. So the barriers of entry are high, but once you're in there, your competition is very low. Once a job posts, you're competing practically with no one, because hardly anyone has those degrees. So that's why they're going to make more money with that. So I'm going to wrap up with that and hope that you appreciated this video, and really listen to it and go and check this data for yourself. You can go to, once again, You can go to the NCES, which is the National Center for Education Statistics. So for anyone out there telling you that going to college is a waste of time, you need to tell them to go bleep themselves, because it's BS. That's someone who probably went to school for one of these lofty, easy to get degrees, and now they're bitter and they're angry. Or there could be someone that's trying to eliminate the competition. You'd be surprised how far people would go to limit the competition. If more and more people are going to school, they're going to tell you something to discourage you. And more people are defaulting on their student loans. So I think there's also some effort to discourage people from going, because the country can't afford any more debt like that. With people just abandoning their student loans and going abroad and just totally saying, forget it, I'm not paying it. Or people who just made up their mind, I can't pay it. Right. And a lot of these people that can't pay it, once again, just simply went to school for bullshit. They went to school for something that was easy to get, where the barriers of entry are low, and they're competing with a gabillion other people out there for the same jobs, rather than bust their ass and get something that has a very a high barrier of entry, so they can win at the end. You know, they don't see the long term of winning when you get one of these degrees, that you're going to be employed damn near for a lifetime. Or what you make average, or what you're making a year at one of these jobs, you can even retire at an early age. You can put away enough to just retire at an early age. Or just do guest appearances, or do a study every now and then and make maybe like 300, 400K, and just go and sit somewhere for the next 3 to 5 years. Right. So once again, I hope you like that. You know where to follow me on Twitter if you want. You see that posted in the comments. In the info area of this video, and have a good one.